So if you tell someone to play dead and then shoot at them, the bullet still has to go somewhere. You're not shooting blanks. Just had to get that out there. Hey, Drew here with Plot First, and I'm going to be reviewing The Old Guard, which just aired on Netflix last Friday. I'm a bit late to the party, but I always say better late than never. Except when you didn't want me there in the first place. But anyway, I am going to be reviewing this film without spoilers, so you can watch this if you haven't seen the movie yet. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you'd give me a like, I'd really appreciate that too. So, getting into The Old Guard, which is based on a series of comics, very, very short miniseries by Greg Rucka. And he actually wrote the screenplay for this film, which I think shows, but I'll get into that in just a second. This film is directed by Gina Prince-Blythewood, who is actually apparently the first African-American woman to be given the opportunity to direct a major big-budget comic book movie. This movie has a budget about $70 million, which is pretty nice for a film that you can watch with your Netflix subscription. And it stars Charlize Theron as Andy, who is leading this group of individuals who simply can't die. They get shot. They immediately are able to heal and then go back to fighting. So she's been leading these mercenaries for centuries and millennium, and she and her group are discovered by these villains. The CIA and the pharmaceutical industry have teamed up, and they want to run oncology trials on these individuals so that they can find cancer drugs. How evil. Anyway, I didn't really think that the script for this film was very colorful. I felt like it just really felt very, very generic and flat. I think that they should have gotten someone who has more experience writing actual screenplays for movies, because I think that Greg Rucka basically just took what was in his comic and didn't even really flesh it out. I like Charlize Theron as an actress, so what I'm going to say is not the result of personal dislike from me against her, but I feel like she doesn't do her best acting here, and I think part of the problem is she's trying really hard to not emote too much, because I think that a lot of actors feel that the best way to play an action movie hero or heroine is to just be really stoic, but it doesn't work because you can see her just straining to not act, and I just felt like she was kind of a little too preening, a little bit too self-aware in this particular performance, and I think that they were trying to give you Furiosa vibes from Mad Max, which is one of the better received Charlize Theron performances of late. I don't actually think that she's a very popular actress. I think that Hollywood has tried to prop her up, but if you look at her box office dollars, I don't think she's a movie star per se. And this movie has a great cast. I really enjoyed KiKi Layne's performance as this new recruit who they wisely made this soldier, so they didn't have to have all the generic training sequences where they teach people how to fight that you usually get in this type of movie. They just already had this character who had training because she was in the military. And I liked her character. I liked the contrast of youth and inexperience with kind of the jaded world weariness of Charlize Theron's Andy. And I liked the rest of the cast too, particularly Chiwetel Ejiofor and Matthias Schoenaerts in their roles. But I felt that the script overall lacked texture. Now, the directing was not the problem. I felt that this was competently directed, although I didn't think it was exceptionally well directed. I think it was just pretty generic directing. If you had a typical Marvel movie, I feel like they could actually basically interchange with this, which is something that I've been frustrated with lately, which is the interchangeability of blockbusters. And this movie does a lot of the things that I don't like in first movies in a series. They're already talking about a sequel, and I hate that. I hate when a movie comes out and they're trying to set up a sequel in the first movie before they've even made a good first movie. The villains here are really disposable. You've got Harry Melling playing this pharmaceutical industry kind of just diabolical person who's able to justify everything he does because they're going to create drugs that help humanity. He says they have a moral responsibility to do this, but his character really isn't in it a whole lot, and generally all that the main characters are doing is fighting these guys in SWAT suits, and they're basically indistinguishable, and the odds never really seem to change. It's just like as much fighting as the director felt was needed to get the point across. And because the characters basically can't die, they never really get into the mythology of this, which is really a missed opportunity in my opinion. Now, someone might say, well, it's the entire point that they don't know how they got to be immortal. They don't know how they got these healing powers. But I would argue that they really should have set up a mythology, because this script has these powers come and go in order to create tension and amplify the danger, because they realize if they can never die, then there's actually no danger or tension. So they have to kind of manufacture it by sometimes having their powers disappear or not work. But because there's no real mythology to it, or no real reason that these powers would come or go, it just seems all very arbitrary, and it's really obvious that it's just a contrivance of the screenwriters. I also felt that, like I said, the characters were very colorless and flat, and I would blame this on them just being adapted very literally from the comic. I feel that they could have tried to explore similar themes to vampire films and books, where you have these characters who they do grapple with this a little bit, but they barely grapple with it. It's mainly just, generic action that this film is focused on. But you do have some scenes where they are kind of grappling with the themes of immortality and what it means that everyone around you is going to die. And there's a great tragedy to this, and I think that at times some of the performers do capture the world weariness and just the tiredness that you would feel with never dying, but there was not nearly enough time devoted to that. And I really didn't feel that these characters felt as if they had been alive for centuries and for thousands of years in some cases. There really wasn't a lot of indications of that in their characters. I feel like they could have worked harder to add these characterizations, but generally speaking, these just seemed like modern characters in a modern setting. So what distinguishes these characters from Deadpool should be their immortality, that they've experienced all these things. That should give them a broader perspective, but the script really doesn't grapple with that enough, in my opinion. So I don't really blame the director. I just blame a flat script, and would overall say that while if you like generic action scenes, this movie might work for you because it's well enough shot and well enough acted and well enough directed that you're not going to probably hate it. I just didn't think there was a whole lot there to hold my interest, and I wouldn't have finished it if I wasn't the type of person who finishes things once I start them. So those are my thoughts on The Old Guard, but let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing more reviews on this channel, please consider subscribing, and as always, you can watch more videos right now.